Turbo and 2K show.
What up, 2K crew? It is that time of the week again. Yes, we are back. 2Ks is in the house with us this week. 2Ks, we got a lot to talk about. We've got some NBA action. We've got some free agent action in the NFL. We've got our quarter century, all-time quarter century team selection today. I kind of teased the 2K crew about it last week to kind of get some hype, some build up around it, and we might as well do it because pretty much all the cool kids are.
Mhm.
So you're going to get our take on that as well as some Cubs Tigers tidbits. What did Mr. Paul Skeens do today, and what does his last 7 starts look like? And if you haven't seen it, there's a lot of zeros. A lot of zeros, including the win column for not only him, but the Buccos as well. So 2Ks, let's jump into this week's show. What do we got here? Let's talk about some new... That is the wrong one. Here we go. We're not talking about March Madness today. And that's not even the right one either. Where are we at? All right, screw it. I could have swore I did this. All right, screw it. Whatever. Let's talk about some news. 2Ks. What is up? Let's go. You want to rip the Band-Aid off and talk about the Tigers and the Cubs?
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, it was really a great series. I mean, you got to make a pretty decent argument that you got maybe the two best teams in baseball. Up to this point in the season, going off against each other in Detroit. It was as a Tigers fan, it was nice to see just Comerica Park. Like it looked like it had a playoff atmosphere in that first game on Friday night. Like just a full house. Pitch. You had Scooble on the bump throwing for him, and it didn't just. It was everything. Everything you could have drawn up on it. Scooble pitched a great game. The Tigers bullpen was taxed at the time. Really needed Scooble to go deep into the game to kind of get the bullpen back into it for the rest of the series, and he did exactly that. And he goes 7 2/3, pitched the ball great. Tigers made 2 great plays in the outfield, one by Riley Green going into the wall, and one by Kerry Carpenter going into the wall, and they ended up winning that game. And then the next day. Tigers offense was not very good, and that Cubs offense that, probably the best offense in all of baseball at this point right now. That Cubs offense just, they went off and had a couple home runs from Suzuki, had a home run from Pete Crow Armstrong, and, the Cubs dominated game 2 of it, and then rolling into today, Tigers had Flaherty on the bump, and I think it was the best game I've seen Flaherty pitch in a Tigers uniform. And he's had some good games. He had some. You go back to last year, he threw some good games in a Tigers uniform. And this year, got off to a slow start. Wasn't real sharp out of the gate, and then these last 2 or 3 starts for him, he's looked really, really good. And if they can get that, the Tigers can get that going where they have, what you're going to get out of Scooble, but if you can get Flaherty, pitching after fouling Scooble and throwing like that, for him to basically silence the bats of that Cubs offense that is, like I said, really, really good. It was nice to see. So the Tigers took 2 out of 3, and anytime you win a series against a team like that, I'll take it.
Absolutely. And we got a tweet here from Database Hit over on X. Tigers came in with the best record in the AL versus the Cubs with the best record in the NL. Detroit took 2 of 3 in which the pitching staff gave up a combined 1 run in those wins. Best team in baseball. Can't argue that. You can't argue that.
Yeah, I mean it's really hard to argue. I don't like seeing really using the words best team in baseball when we're still in the beginning of June.
Right.
But I truly believe these are 2 legitimate playoff teams. These are 2 teams that you could potentially see a rematch of these teams in the World
100%.
Series. Like that's how good they are. Obviously, all teams, with baseball being the grind of a season that it is, you have to stay healthy, and you can't go through injuries. And I think when you look at teams like this too, come trade deadline time, you're going to see both teams probably being active, looking to add something. Whether it's another bat, whether it's another pitcher in the starting rotation, or whether it's a pitcher or 2 that you can bring out of the bullpen. It was nice to see because there's been just so many recent years in Detroit where Comerica Park was dead and just nobody was there, and this season they kind of go back to last year when they made that run and were able to play some playoff games in Comerica and the stadium filled up. But Friday night, turning that game on, it just had that feel of like, all right, baseball's back in Detroit now. They have a really good team, and they feel like they can play with anybody in the league, and they can, and it's fun to watch.
Absolutely. And let's get a take on the other side here, 2Ks, with the Cubs. This is from Carl, Barstool Carl, as a matter of fact. When the Cubs took the field in the bottom of the first yesterday, every player 1 through 9 was a first-round draft pick. I feel like this should be a bigger story in the baseball community. 9 first-rounders on the field at the same time. Cubs are the first team to ever do that in Major League history, which is kind of crazy to think that. And
Real.
I mean, granted, not all of these were draft picks by the Cubs.
Sure.
Which, if that was the case, that would be just would blow your mind.
Yeah.
That, I mean, but we have seen some lackluster teams for many years reload through the draft. Probably not all through the first round.
Yeah.
But if that was the case, you'd be hitting home runs on 1 through 9 on 9 straight drafts, which is unheard of. And if that's the case, your GM and everyone else should probably get some major kudos for that.
Yeah, and I mean, and I have to agree with Mr. Barstool Carl there on that one, where it should be something that's talked about more. But unfortunately, with Major League Baseball, we ride the dicks of the Dodgers and the Yankees every fucking Sunday night. It's one of those two teams playing against somebody else. And if it's not that story, it's riding the dicks of the fucking shitty Boston team and talking about a kid that hasn't even played a major league game yet, but he gets more spotlight than any fucking thing going on in Major League Baseball. And I know that you're a Boston fan, and hey, I think this kid's gonna be fucking awesome, but why the fuck isn't he here yet? And that's what is driving me nuts. Is I'm so tired of listening to the baseball media world fucking ride the dicks of 3 teams, and those are the only 3 teams that you ever hear anything out of.
I believe me, I wish I could give you an answer to that, because I'm just as confused as you are. Especially when dude hits a 500-foot home run today, and not even a home run, a grand slam.
Yeah.
And you would think that this Boston team, now granted their main deficiency really is in offense, but you got to give this team a spark. You got to give it a shot in the arm, because vibes are down. I mean, granted, they had a great game last night, even though it wasn't Crochet's best. But still, to come out of Yankee Stadium with the win when Garrett Crochet looks not as sharp as he normally does, and then to have the bullpen, which has been a huge question mark, kind of shut the door. So they can do it. It's about consistency. It's about not striking out 10 times a game, which they're well on their way to now with against Rodon tonight.
They tied it up though.
Did they? Nice.
Campbell hit a 2-run shot.
Who did?
Campbell.
Nice. Good. That's a kid that needs to get started. He needs
just leave him at second base.
Yeah,
we talked about it before.
Thank you.
Went live here. He's a second baseman.
Yeah.
So stop fucking with him. Leave him there. Let him play that. That's going to be his position moving forward. That is going to be where he is at. Slide him in there every day and stop messing with it. And that's what I guess for me watching that. I'm not a Boston fan. I know that you are. We talk about him quite often, but for me, it's like this team doesn't have a plan. You got guys that are down in the minor leagues. I thought that Anthony should have been starting from day one up here with this team. Probably could make a case for Mayer also being on the starting team at the very beginning. And they don't do it, and they drag this out, and now they've dug themselves into this hole that they're going to have to get out of, and they absolutely can. I mean, we watched it last year with the Tigers team that completely dug out of a hole, and this team is way more talented.
And a Mets team that did it last year as well.
Yeah. Yep. So I mean, it's definitely possible. The thing is, how long are you going to wait? How long are you going to wait on this? Because the longer you wait, the bigger this hole is going to get. And I don't see, the Yankees are not going to go on a big losing streak where they're going to lose a lot of games.
No.
So to me, it's get it done and let's go. Let's have, if you guys are the playoff team, that you think that you are, and I think that there's a really good chance that they are. Why not have the experience that as many at bats for these young kids? Before you get to that point for them. So, and if it doesn't work out and they don't pan out this year and they don't make the playoffs, who cares?
Right.
It's no different than what you have going on right now. So it's one of those situations for me. Like, what do you have to lose? What do you?
Everyone's so worried about people's feelings these days, 2Ks. I say fuck it. They're
Yes.
paying you a lot of
Yes.
money to,
Yes.
to do a job. And now, granted, it's not Anthony's fault. He's down there.
Mm-hmm.
He's doing everything possible
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
to kind of, knock down the door. And with that being said, 2Ks, that's a perfect segue into this one here. Now, for those of you that don't remember, Kyle Teal was one of the big three in Boston. It was Marcelo Meyer, Roman Anthony, and Kyle Teal were kind of like this core group of youngsters that we were just waiting to get to the big league roster. And in the offseason, Kyle Teal was the kind of the main linchpin in the Garrett Crochet trade.
Mm-hmm.
So I I retweeted this from Underdog MLB. Kyle Teal expected to be called up by the White Sox per Chris Cotillo. And I retweeted it and said, hard to believe Anthony is the last one of the big three to be called up. And this got me thinking 2Ks. It's like, okay, even if Kyle Teal were still with the Red Sox,
Mm-hmm.
he would have made his major league debut prior to Roman Anthony if all of this still plays out, because if Teal is still in the organization, they don't make the play for Narvaez from the Yankees, which thank God they did,
Mm-hmm.
because that kid's been probably the second best hitter in this whole lineup. And so Kyle Teal, regardless, probably would have been the backup catcher until he was playing better than Wong, which really isn't that hard right now.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean it just makes sense. And 2Ks, we got the bomb of all bombs. I believe it was Friday. Aaron Rodgers makes it official. From Adam Schefter, the news we've all been waiting for. ESPN sources Steelers quarterback Aaron Rodgers was in the team's training facility today to sign his 1-year, $13.65 million contract that includes $10 million guaranteed and has a maximum value of $19.5. The deal includes $15.85 million worth of play time and team performance incentive. Excuse me. I think a lot of us were kind of expecting this.
Yeah.
I mean, I was in the camp where he's either going to the Steelers after minicamp because he didn't want to do that, which this is what his like 22nd year or some shit. Now, granted, people are going to knock him saying, you need to get chemistry with this team, with the line, with the receivers, whatever, which I get.
Mm-hmm.
But, we saw out in California, him and DK getting together and
Mm-hmm.
throwing some there. So I honestly was like, this is it.
Yeah.
He's retiring. And I know there were some folks with Barstool that had to kind of research the legality of ayahuasca in the state of Philadelphia, which, for those of you that are wondering, is not legal in Pennsylvania, but it is what it is. But yeah, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think this makes them a playoff team, or do you think this is going to be another disaster like the Jets?
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is he's going to an organization now that they have a plan. They know how to win. They have a plan. Now, you can make the argument that they've been here in the last 5-6 seasons, they've just been a tale of mediocre.
Yeah.
Like, they might be a playoff team, but they just slide into the playoffs. They get outed in the first round, and that's what it is. And you can make that argument, but this, you walk into a Mike Tomlin situation as you have him as your head coach. I just don't see. I think last year things got away from him before they even started playing, and they hadn't even played a game yet. And then they have the head coaching swap, and after what, I think right in the middle of the season,
Like
and then
4 weeks in.
Then they have a guy that steps in coaching them that doesn't have any business being a head coach, and just the whole situation was just terrible. And then Aaron Glenn is hired as the Jets' next head coach. It was already talk about that Aaron Rodgers wasn't going to return there. Then they had the meeting where Aaron Glenn wanted to talk to him, and then Aaron Glenn pretty much just blew him off and didn't say shit to him after Rodgers flied out to New York for that. And from that point going forward, I was like, man, it's Pittsburgh. There's going to be teams like Pittsburgh are going to be reaching out to him, kind of leading up before the draft. Maybe the Giants would be a team that would be interested in him. And then after the draft ended, and then after the schedules were released, and the first game, week 1 of the season, is going back and playing against the Jets.
Yep.
I was like, I think Pittsburgh's going to be the team. If there's anybody in the NFL that can hold a grudge and wants to
Oh yeah,
just, get the
yeah,
best of them,
yeah,
I have a feeling that Aaron Rodgers is going to be ready to play in Week 1 in that Pittsburgh Jets game, and he's going to be wanting to make that his former team look
yeah.
like shit.
Right.
And is he the Aaron Rodgers of old? No, he is not. But you cannot
Cheapest
tell me
fucking home runs in all of baseball.
you
Jesus,
cannot
Pete.
tell me that he's not a top 25 quarterback
Yeah,
in the league right now. The guy can still play quarterback. He
he's better
and
than Mason Rudolph, which is
also I
pretty
think
much all you need to be at this point right
think a
now.
lot of people had so many high expectations for him last season coming off of the injury, but I think it was kind of unfair expectations as
Yeah,
far as he's not young anymore.
yeah,
He's coming off of a major Achilles injury, and sometimes it takes a year to get your feet
yep.
back underneath you and get going. And I think he can still play the game. Aaron Rodgers is the type of guy that he's not going to go out there and just play shitty quarterback
No,
and embarrass himself. He's too damn good for that. He's done way too many good things in his career to go out there and make a mockery of the game and embarrass himself. So if he's coming back to play, something tells me he feels like he can still play quarterback at a very high level. So
absolutely. And I think even right now, at year 21 or 22, whatever it is, he's a better option than Mason Rudolph.
he's a better option than what they had last year.
Yeah.
He's a better option than
Yep.
Russell Wilson, and he's a better option than Justin Fields. I mean,
Absolutely.
he is.
Absolutely. And that's where I was going to go with that. Is even though at his advanced age, I think he can still do it.
Yep.
And if you look at the Steelers, above average offensive line, above average running back,
Mm-hmm.
and I have a feeling that the George Pickens out of Pittsburgh was kind of preemptive to this because having him and Rodgers on the same team, I don't think would have vibed. But as I said, him and DK have already been, tossing the ball around in Florida. So I, I'm, I'm not expecting like a 4,500 yard passing
Right.
season from
Right.
Rodgers. I am expecting them to be competitive in the AFC North, where without him, they are not. That division is too good.
Yeah.
It's too good.
Yeah. And
But
that's the thing too with that, him stepping into that is I think the Steelers situation is not a bad situation to be in, but man, having to play twice against the Ravens, that's just and trying to win that division is not going to be an easy thing to do. And then plus that division and their non-divisional opponents are coming from the NFC North.
Yeah.
So they're going to be playing against Green Bay, they're going to be playing against Detroit, they're going to be playing against Minnesota. Like that's
Yeah.
not easy. That's
Nope.
not easy, so it's gonna be an uphill battle for him. But I do think if the season gets done and then he has a worse year, and Pittsburgh is worse than what the Jets were and how he played last year with the Jets, I would be shocked.
Yeah, especially even late in the season last year, you saw him scramble for first downs, where you didn't see that prior to. And getting back to your point about it's going to take a little longer to heal to get back to normal. I kind of put this on Rodgers himself, where he was the one trying to come back the same season. And now, granted, the Jets weren't going to make the playoffs. They didn't need, the Rodgers push or whatever they were calling it. So he was the one that kind of set the expectation really fucking high. And then for him to come out and kind of, not be able to do all the things that he could. But then again, once the season got going, you kind of saw whether it was mental or physical, everything kind of unlock again. And it's not, Rodgers from 10 years ago, but it's still kind of what at least football fans kind of expected from him. So, and speaking of coming back 2Ks, we have a signing that's supposed to be happening tomorrow for a gentleman that you talk about being injury plagued, even coming out of college, and then even into the pros. This is from Ian Rappaport. Sources say Browns free agent running back Nick Chubb, one of the most decorated players available, is expected to sign with the Texans on Monday if all goes well with the physicals. With his physical, sources say. Chubb's 2024 ended prematurely with an injury, but now he could return for more in Houston. I like this fit a lot.
Yeah, it's
I like
solid. I mean, it's a solid. He doesn't have to be the guy. He's proven that he can still play running back in this league, and he can still still do it very effectively. But yeah, I mean, Joe Mixon's going to be the guy that
Yeah.
does it all there, just like he did last year. But I mean, this is a great move for Chubb to be slide in there and be the number two in a very very solid rush offense that they have, and
With a
then
whole retooled offensive line, which thank God.
it's a great signing for Mixon too, because I thought there was too many times last season where Mixon took too much
Yeah.
and I thought going in late into the season, going into the playoffs, Mixon had been basically used up. He was gassed, and so to take some of that pressure off of him, hopefully he can stay healthy and have a good year for him. And Texans, I mean, they're a legitimate playoff
Yeah.
team.
Especially if they can keep CJ Stroud standing.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of hard to play quarterback when you're on your back.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yep.
And he's
But
far too talented.
one thing that will help that is having a very good running game.
Yes.
If they can have that with two really good solid backs.
And I've always been a really big Chubb fan. I've always rooted for him.
Well, it
He's
sucks.
very
I mean,
yeah.
he's just
Yeah.
injuries have sucked for him, and then having to play your entire career in Cleveland.
Yes.
I mean, what's worse? Is it the injuries, or is it having to play for Cleveland?
I don't know. We can ask Shador here in a couple of years. But another place that stinks to play 2Ks is Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about no ayahuasca. Maybe if ayahuasca were legal, some of these Pittsburgh fans would be a little bit more genuine, a little bit more forgiving. But if you're a Pirates fan, this is from Jay Hey Kid over on Twitter via the Baseball is Dead podcast. Paul Skeens over his last 7 starts, a 1.12 ERA and 1 win. I'll even amend that tweet for you, Jay Hay. This is 1 fucking win.
Yeah.
Dude went 7 2/3 today, and he was under 100 pitches and was cruising. Why take him out? Prior to going completing the 8th, I have no idea. But got a no decision because he left at a 1-1 tie. And yeah,
I think it's the situation of there's no meaningful baseball being played in Pittsburgh, so you don't want to use him up too much and completely gas him out. Because I mean, unfortunately with him, like, I mean, you're looking at the future. I know that there's really no future in sight with Pittsburgh, but that's what you're looking to. I mean, I can speak for situations that I saw firsthand. Obviously, being a Tigers fan, kind of saw it a few years ago when Tigers weren't competing for anything. They were really bad, and not saying that this guy is as good as Paul Skeens, because he wasn't. But when they brought up Fulmer, and Fulmer was throwing really really well, and he was. I mean, he had great numbers. And I thought Detroit pitched him way too much, and it was just like, what's the point of throwing him so much so that we can
win the Rookie of the Year, dude?
Yeah, win Rookie of the Year, and we suck. This team's terrible. Why throw him? And I think Detroit doing that with him, the way that I thought they truly did a disjustice to that kid, because he never really was the same.
Never the same. So yeah, keep him. Pittsburgh, you got A-Rod sliding over there. Granted, he's not going to be able to help the Pirates.
Yeah,
I mean, he might. I doubt it. I really don't see A-Rod digging in.
I mean, some of the guys on that lineup, I might want to give A-Rod a shot, because
he's already in town.
Yeah,
he's already in town. Maybe give him a couple ABs off the bench. You never know. And if you're in the Pirates farm system, you got to be wondering, like, what the hell do I have to do? Like, how bad do I suck? Oh, Narvaez just hit one out. The ball is flying out of Yankee Stadium tonight. Ball is flying out. It's a 3-run home run.
Doesn't take much. Just got to give it a little flick.
It's in left field, dude.
Yeah.
That was 372 feet. That one was legit.
Yeah.
The one that LeMahieu hit the last half inning is only gone in Yankee Stadium. So, yeah, cheapest home runs in baseball. Speaking of baseball 2Ks, do you have your list ready? Do you want to get this started?
Yeah.
Well, let's kind of break it down for the folks here. This is our I almost said all NBA, all MLB Quarter Century team. Rules are simple. They have to have played between the year 2000 and today. And we had kind of talked about this Friday night, where we're picking them at the position they primarily play. And we're going all position players, DH, 5 starters, and I kind of let the cat out of the bag at the end of the episode last week. 2Ks. Um, I'm pretty sure both of us have the same closer.
Yes.
Yeah, Mariano Rivera,
Yeah.
hands down,
Yeah.
hands down.
There's really nobody else
No, no.
you can put in. I mean, there's been some good closers. I mean, Kimbrel did his thing there for a long time. Unfortunately, Kimbrel kind of had some really, really rough seasons at the end of it all that kind
Yeah,
of, I
rough
think,
go at it for
tarnished.
the last week.
Yeah, that
You see, he
really.
got called up and then got got walking papers the next day.
Mhm. For a
Oh, hands down.
he was very, very good. And you know you can think of I can name off a couple other ones that Aroldis Chapman's been a
Stanley
really good
Jansen.
closer. Kenley Jansen was very, very good. Joe Nathan was very, very
Yeah,
good there, but nobody holds a
he
candle to
he's
what
the only
Mariano Rivera.
unanimous Hall of Fame selection. I
Yep.
mean, that. Like I said, definitely not letting the cat out of the bag here.
Mhm.
Definitely not letting the cat out of the bag. Well, two guys, let's start at first base because I think both of us are going to have the same guy, even though there's a local favorite that I think both of us probably considered. But when you look at the entirety of, I went Pujols here.
Yeah, I mean, I love Miguel Cabrera, one of my favorite players of all time, my favorite Tiger player that I've ever watched. And, some of the things that he did in Detroit, unfortunately, never was able to win a World Series with
Mhm.
them. But the Triple Crown season, the MVPs, just one of the greatest hitters I've ever had the privilege of watching
Yeah.
so many games with Detroit. Love the guy. But Albert Pujols is, I mean, over 700 home runs.
Yep.
3,000 hits, well over 3,000 hits, a career just about almost a 300 hitter, just under 300. Um, Probably the greatest right-handed hitter that I think this game's ever seen.
Yep. It's the stats I have here from 2001 to 2011. That's when he became the machine.
Mm-hmm.
Which from the time he stepped into the major leagues, hit over 300, hit over 40 home runs, and had over 100 RBIs for 11 straight seasons. It's never happened before, and they've been playing baseball for a long time. Never happened. Over that stretch, he won 3 MVPs, 10 All Stars. Had a slash line of 328, 420, 617. Ended his career with 703 home runs and over 2,200 RBIs. Also, is very solid defensively until the later part of his career when he kind of went DH full time. And you could argue that same thing with Miggy. Obviously, the 2 MVPs, Triple Crown in 2012, career average of 306, over 500 home runs and 3,000 hits. Probably could say more versatile as a defender, playing, coming up as a third baseman, then sliding over to first, and then for that really weird transition with Prince Fielder, slid back over to third,
Mm-hmm.
and then finished his career as a DH. Just some other notable ones: Joey Votto, Freddie Freeman, and now the Paul Goldschmidt, which is playing tonight. And let's see here. Ironically enough, Mark Teixeira was one that throughout doing this, did not realize he had over 4 home runs and 5 Gold Gloves.
Mm-hmm.
Did not. And now, granted, Ranger, Brave,
Mm-hmm.
probably most likely known as a Yankee. You would have thought as a Yankee hater, I would know that he had over 400 home runs. But yeah, we both have Pujols. Let's go to second. I think there's 3 guys here that, well, 4 if I include my homerism here. But who do you have going here at second, 2Ks?
This one was kind of a tricky one, I thought, just because there's one that's still active today that is really good. And I think you can make quite the argument for him. You can make an argument for Chase Utley as maybe being maybe out of all these guys the most consistent, the one that just for and longevity wise just was able to do it for a really, really long time and was always consistent. Or you can go with the one that I picked where he had great years and then fell off maybe faster than any player. Just kind of fell off the radar completely, and then also has the PEDs that kind of tarnished everything that he did. But I'm going Robinson Cano on this one, and the reasoning for that is when you go on like a 5-6 year stretch of what he did at second base, numbers wise. I'm talking like 2010 through 2015-16 season when he was still with the Yankees. Man, he was doing things as a second baseman as far as the home run numbers that he was hitting, batting average, and he was just so damn smooth doing
Yep.
it. And second basemen were not guys that were typically hitting 30, 40 home runs in
No.
seasons, and he was doing that. He was basically swinging the bat like what a corner infielder or a corner outfielder is paid to do in this game, and he was doing it from second base. So that's why I pick him there. I'm not going to be one that's going to hold the PEDs over his head. I'm not going to be one that knocks him for the fall off that he did have,
Yeah.
because it was bad. It was a terrible fall off, and I think that kind of played into the PEDs. He wasn't.
Oh, yeah.
He didn't know. I don't think he was taking PEDs so he could hit home runs and
No.
really drive the ball. He was taking it because he was trying to stay healthy and
Yeah.
stay on the field, and that was what he was not ever able to do there for like the last 5-6 years that he played. And then defensively, I don't know if I've
Probably
ever
the
seen
strongest
anybody
arm of
as
anyone
smooth.
of any second baseman I've
He
ever
was
seen.
so smooth, and he could throw the ball from different arm angles, and the way that he pivoted on second base on a double play, it was just so much fun to watch him defensively and what he did out there. So I'm going Cano.
Could you imagine an infield of Cano in his prime at second and Manny Machado in his prime at short? You talk about just absolute cannons in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
And both of them are just the smoothest defenders.
Hmm.
So I'm right there with you, but I have to give the nod to Altuve, even though a guy who has some baggage.
Yeah.
Guy, and this is the all performance team. We're not talking about the Hall of Fame here. But with Altuve has the 2017 MVP, 9 All-Star selections, 2 World Series titles, has lived in the postseason for the past 8 or 9 years. 305 batting average, over 2,200 hits, 238 home runs. Would have thought that number would be a little higher. But he's, and then now this year playing left field, which has been, I haven't checked up on it lately, but at the beginning was quite scary. Quite scary. But yeah, just some others. You touched on Utley. Actually, in my research, if you're going just stats wise, Utley is the clear cut favorite here. But 6-time All-Star, 4-time Silver Slugger. The 2008 World Series, 225 or 275 career average, 259 home runs, over 1,000 RBIs. And what sticks out most is his postseason performances.
Yeah.
And then my homerism, Pedroia.
Mm-hmm.
He was
just a ball player, just a grinder. Just the kind of guy that I think every successful baseball team needs a guy like him on their roster.
Yes.
The guy that is going to do it. And kind of my last little nudge on Utley of you can knock on Cano for the PEDs, you can knock on Altuve for the trash can incident.
Yep.
But Chase Utley's slide on second on basically ending the career of I think was it Ruben Tejada. I thought that was maybe arguably the biggest bullshit play I've ever seen watching baseball in my life. And for that, like I absolutely fucking hate the guy now because of that play. And I just PEDs and fucking trash cans to me doesn't make me hate a guy more than ending a guy that ends a guy's career with a fucking dirty ass slide.
Some other ones that we could talk about. Ian Kinsler, it's another one. Even for whatever reason they have Ozzy Albies listed, which I'm not putting him in this conversation right now.
No.
Let's move over to third 2Ks. This one was tough. I'm going Chipper Jones here. And this might be a homer pick because I've always been the biggest Chipper fan. He was the only switch hitter that I came across in doing this exercise. 2000 onward, he posted a 304 batting average, 315 home runs, and 1,100 RBIs. Won the NL batting title in 08, 8-time All-Star, arguably one of the best switch hitters in Major League history. So that's why I went with him. Who is manning your hot corner 2Ks?
Yeah, I really like Chipper in this one too. One of my probably definitely makes my top 10 of favorite
Mm.
players all time for me.
And also a great
Um,
follow on Twitter too.
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely, and yeah, I just love listening to the guy talk. Loved watching him play. I was a lot younger when I was watching him. I think a lot of Chipper's though his best seasons were in the '90s.
Yeah.
Um,
But still
and
from 2000 on.
2009 was good,
Yeah.
yeah. But I just can't go away from Adrian Beltre on this. I think Beltre probably the best defensive third baseman I've ever
Mm.
watched, and then for him to offensively have over 3,000 hits, well over 400. I think he was about 20 or so shy of 500 home runs. Um, yeah, I mean, dude could do it all, and but defensively was what he was. I mean, he was just had a fucking cannon for an arm.
Just don't touch his
And
head.
yeah, yeah, do not touch his head. Do
Well,
not.
here's some stats. So you're going Beltray.
Yeah.
Well, here's some stats to back you up. It's 21 year career. 3,166 hits, 477 homers, 1,707 RBIs, 5 Gold Gloves, 4 Silver Sluggers. Um, Arguably, he's the best defensive third baseman on this list. Beltre's the only third baseman with both 3,000 hits and 400 homers, inducted into the Hall of Fame last year with a 95.1% vote. Some other ones to consider: A-Rod.
Mhm.
And you and I were talking, and if we could have included the '90s in this exercise, you might have seen me pick A-Rod for the shortstop
Mhm.
because I think A-Rod's the best shortstop all around when you're talking about hitting, when you're talking about fielding, that in my lifetime.
Mhm.
And that I know I'm using a very big paintbrush when I say that, considering I watched Cal Ripken Jr. I watched all these guys, growing up, and if there wasn't Cal Ripken Jr., we probably wouldn't have A-Rod at short. A-Rod was, or excuse me, Ripken was the first real big shortstop,
Mhm.
and now we see there's not a shortstop in the league under 6'4". So that was him that kind of broke through that, and the consecutive game streak and everything that he put together. But A-Rod at third base, from 2004 to 2013, hit 51 home runs, drove in pretty much 1,100 RBIs, won 2 MVPs, and had the 2009 World Series title. The only ones here that are active. Now, the sneaky one on this list that I don't think anyone's really going to, he seems to be the most underrated player, even going today, is Jose Ramirez. I think by the time this is said and done, and his career is said and done, we could redo this list to be, and he would be further up that. I'm not saying he'll dethrone some of the guys we just talked about, but his is a TBD.
Mhm.
I think with Machado, he's hitting milestones now. Arenado's pretty much on the way. His time is almost done here, which is sad because again we're talking defensively, probably active third baseman, one of the best in his career, defensively. But yeah, there's I honestly think that yeah, don't sleep on Jose Ramirez.
Mhm.
He does not get the love that he
Yeah, he
deserves.
doesn't. He doesn't, and he never has. And I think a lot of that has to do with playing in Cleveland.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, he's a stud. I was looking today. Kind of, I went through and did my first vote on All Star Game, and I was looking at third baseman, and I'm like, I mean,
Yeah.
he's the guy. Like there's no argument to be made. But when I first was going through there looking at the names, I'm like, oh man, who am I gonna pick? And then because for some reason he was all the way down at the bottom, and as soon as I saw him at the bottom, I'm like, oh, what the fuck have I spent all this time
Why
looking
is he
for?
not
He's
listed
the guy,
higher?
yeah. Like he's definitely the guy. And but no, yeah, he's a great player. And like there's active players that potentially could take this, as time goes on. But right now, I mean, I think it is. I think it comes down to the three.
Mhm.
It's Beltray, it's Chipper, or it's A-Rod, and
Yep.
it's wherever you want to go. And there's probably going to be, if you probably want to look at who was the best hitter out of all of them, it probably is A-Rod.
Hmm.
A-Rod's probably not going to get the nod for a lot of people because he's just not a very likable guy.
And he's A-Rod,
Yep.
and he's a Yankee. let's let's go to the tweener here. Let's talk about shortstops. I know I'm already gonna say it. There's gonna be a lot of people that hate my choice. A lot of people are gonna hate my choice. A lot of people are gonna say, Turbo, you're a Red Sox fan. You hate Derek Jeter. You're right. But I have a very compelling argument as to why I did not choose Derek
Mhm.
Jeter. So let's start off with you're more of an unbiased person in this shortstop conversation, 2Ks.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna set you up because I'm gonna take Jeter. Um, I wanted to go against Jeter on this one. I think that there's an active shortstop today who I have a feeling is going to be your pick, and I'm not going to give it away. And I think that you're right on that one. I think you're right in a lot of ways as far as the baseball player and what they, how who they are with the glove and who they are as far as the power hitter, and what they can do. I think that, but my argument on Derek Jeter is, man, there's only been one guy ever called Mr. November, and he's a five-time World Series champion. Um, Played in the toughest franchise in maybe all of sports, is to be a Yankee and to be a lifetime Yankee and to
Supposed to be
be,
the shortstop of the Yankees.
yes, and to be that kid, the kid that started with them, that struggled in the beginning and could have very easily just fucking gave up, and ends up winning the Rookie of the Year, and then takes that on to, yeah, I know that they were loaded with talent, always had, and that's the big reason why they won so many World Series, but I would be shocked if there was anybody on those World Series teams that did it for as long as that would say that they would have five World Series if Derek Jeter wasn't there.
Oh,
I don't
and
think that they would.
no,
I think he
you're
was
100
kind of
percent
he
right.
was the glue guy there. He held it together. Defensively, he was not very good.
No,
He was not. There's no argument for me there. But Duke can fucking hit.
yeah,
Yeah, well over 3,000 hits, almost 3,500 hits. Was a career 310 batting average, 260 home runs, um,
20-year career.
and to just hold that down, of being the Yankee shortstop for life. Like
Mhm.
he will always be known. He's got a statue there in New York. He will always be known, and to me that's a really really hard job that not very many people can do,
Yeah,
and do it consistently the way that he did it, and was able to basically, stayed out of tried his hardest to stay out of the spotlight, was never really in trouble, was just, I mean,
no.
he was just a your prototypical pro. Like, I mean, he just did everything the right way, and for that reason, I'm going with Jeter.
And just to kind of put a bow on the Derek Jeter talk, 20 years career with the Yankees, 14 time All Star, 5 Gold Gloves. You mentioned the batting average and hits and the 5 World Series rings, but I'm going Lindor here.
The
Um,
right pick. I mean, that is the right pick. I
yeah,
followed. I'm not a. I hate the Yankees, but I follow my heart with this one because
mm,
you have the hometown kid, coming from Kalamazoo, Michigan, and then just the way that he did it throughout his career. But I can't argue your pick one bit.
no, Lindor's switch hitter. I know his tenure in New York was not as prolific as a lot of folks would have thought, or even him himself would have ever thought. But you've seen that turnaround, and he's now the face of that Mets franchise. Even though Mr. Juan Soto plays there, $800 million Juan Soto, but it's been Frankie Lindor that's between him and Alonso. Alonso being the most tenured Met there, but this team goes as Lindor goes, and if you're talking out of all the shortstops in this era, and I know WAR is kind of a much debated stat, which is why I really haven't brought it up a lot. But would you believe that Lindor has the highest WAR out of any shortstop of the period? And he hasn't played all 25 years, obviously. So it's going to be interesting to see where his career goes and where he ends up. And I think by the end of his career, will he have 5 championships like Jeter? Probably not. Will he have all of the accolades that Derek Jeter has? Probably not. But as far as defensively and being able to switch hit and just being, because Jeter wasn't even the best shortstop on his team. A-Rod was. But to have A-Rod, just to kind of, I know there's a lot of, A-Rod haters, but when it was between the lines, he was a much better shortstop than Jeter. And if he would have played short and Jeter would have played third, Jeter would have been the second best third baseman on that team too. And it was because it was Jeter's team, and A-Rod knew going on this team, I'm going to have to play third because you're not moving Jeets off short, which is fine. They made it work.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they were both did their thing. I don't know if it seems like they were boys. I mean, or at least enough to where they're cordial. But yeah, give me Lindor for now, and that's the hard part with this list. 2K Crew is, do you try not to project with an active player, and but it's hard because the active player's career isn't done, whereas a lot of these guys played their whole entire career in this quarter century, and so we have the results there. So their results are going to be higher than an active player. So that's the tricky part in this. That's the tricky part in this. Some of the other ones that I found, we mentioned A-Rod. I'm not buying Corey Seager, not buying Jimmy Rollins. Let's go behind the plate, 2Ks. Let's go behind the plate. To me, this was, I thought this was going to be harder than what it was until I actually got some stats in front of me. But in my eyes, and I know this might catch a lot of people off guard, but this was one of the easier ones. Once you look at the numbers, it's got to be Buster Posey.
I disagree.
Disagree.
I disagree.
You go in Yachty.
No,
you got to be going
yeah.
Mauer.
I'm going Mauer.
All right.
I'm going Mauer.
Third time's a charm.
I know that Mauer doesn't have the World Series titles that Buster has, that Yachty has. I know that Mauer is not known for the defense like what, Yachty especially, but even Buster was known for, good defense. But as far as just hitting the ball, like all these catchers, every catcher in fucking Major League Baseball can play defense. They're all good at it. They're all good at calling games. They're all good. When you talk about finding a career 300 hitter and lines up behind the dish and plays catcher in baseball, it's unheard of. He did it. When you find a catcher that has over 2,000 hits in his career, it's fucking unheard of. Nobody does it. He did it. He's the only one out of them that did it. Well, Yachty did it, but Yachty played also double the amount of games that both of these other guys did.
Yeah.
For the time of Joe Mauer when he played at catcher, when I was making my team on this, I looked at year stretches, like 6-season stretches, 7-year stretches. I didn't really look at the whole, 2000 to 25 or however long their career was. I looked at what they did for a 6 or 7-year stretch in time. And in my opinion on that one, Mauer doesn't have the World Series that the other two have, but Mauer was by far the best hitter of all of them.
Just to kind of give you some stats here, 2K Crew. Buster Posey, 3-time World Series champion, 2012 NL MVP, a batting title, 7-time All-Star, career 302 average. Mauer, 3 batting titles, 2009 MVP, which, if I remember correctly, he probably should have won another one because I think he should have been the selection over Justin Morneau. So you it could really be 2 MVPs, 306 career batting average, 6-time All-Star, and with Mr. Molina, 9 Gold Gloves, 2 World Series champions. Ranks all-time in catchers with putouts with 15,122. That sounds like a lot. 10-time All-Star. His leadership and game calling skills, immaculate. But
and another tidbit I'll throw back out on Mauer too is that nobody ever thinks about, but there's a lot of his numbers and a lot of his hits are against 2 pitchers that are going to be in our top 5 starting rotation.
Yeah.
And he faced those 2 a lot in his career.
And in doing this, I did find that there are some Yachty haters. Like, he was overrated.
Oh.
And growing up and just like he was the gold standard of defensive, game calling, defensive catcher. That's the Molina way.
Yeah.
But some of the Molina haters were like, take a look at the pitching staffs that he's catching. Adam Wainwright, Chris Carpenter. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, these are borderline Hall of Fame pitchers. So how hard can it be? But then again, you look at some of the other guys
Mm-hmm.
that aren't named
Mm-hmm.
those guys. But to me, Buster Posey is like the perfect combination of Mauer and Molina.
Mm-hmm.
He has the he has the batting title. He can he can hit bombs. Was a very good catcher behind the plate. Getting back to one of your points with the nasty slide, that's
Mm-hmm.
why you can't block the
Mm-hmm.
plate anymore because of the Buster Posey rule. And now we're seeing him as a GM having to fire one of his best friends that was still with the team. Kind of awkward. But this one here, 2K, is between the three, if you were to start an organization with any one of the three, I think you'd be happy as a GM.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And and I'm not trying to say that I'm a Yachty hater because I'm not. And defensively out of these three guys, I'm taking Yachty. If I just need a catcher to do what majority of catchers in this league do, and that's do work behind the dish and just try to have a pulse as far as offensively.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty much about every catcher in Major League Baseball right now, with the exception of Cal Raleigh, who just is. I mean,
The big dumper.
kind of changing the whole dynamic of catching in Major League Baseball right now, because the numbers that he's putting up are just fucking incredible. But defensively, Yachty is the guy. But when you're trying to pick like what catcher in the all century team here, I think you got to go. I think you got to go Posey and Mauer over him because of what they can do with the bat.
Yeah, I remember a lot of those teams where he was almost an offensive liability at that point.
Mm-hmm. And a base running
Yeah.
liability.
Oh yeah.
If he got on base, because at least the other two could move decent, and that wasn't like they were burners and stealing bases, but they weren't clogging up base paths.
No. Let's move to the outfield, 2Ks. Let's start at right field. This one was weird because in the research I did, the guy I picked is ranked number 3.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a legitimate argument for number 2 in this list. And if you're going just numbers, that's the only argument you have for number 1. And I think you and I probably are on the same page here, Aaron Judge.
Yeah, I have to go with Judge. I mean, it goes right back to that, the stretches. Like that's kind of what I look at. What I looked at most in this is what they did for a stretch. And
But he's going to win another MVP.
He's going to win another MVP. Won the MVP last year. Had just under 60 home runs last year. Go back a couple of years ago, had 62 home runs, I believe. Early on in his career, I think it was maybe his sophomore season. Had over 50 home runs then. Yeah, it's the home runs. It's the home runs for me. It's what he's done, and he still has a lot of ball to be played. Hopefully, stays healthy and is able to continue
flirting with 400 still.
Yeah, I mean he is. He's just. Yeah, you have two guys in Major League Baseball right now that are doing what they do at the plate and are just on a whole different area code from
100%.
everybody else in baseball.
Him and Ohtani.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And for that reason there, I mean, I know that there's been some great ones. I mean, shit, your guy, was your guy in Mookie. I love everything about Mookie's game.
He was the number 2 guy on this list.
Who was 3?
Judge.
Judge.
Judge was 3. Mookie was 2. Ichiro was first.
See, and like for Ichiro, there was just he didn't get here soon enough.
Yeah.
So a lot of hits in Japan before he was able to come here.
Still had over 3,000 hits,
which is incredible.
Yeah.
And one of the
19 MLB seasons.
One of the greatest hitters. I mean, no question. Obviously, way better defensively than what Judge is. Not that Judge is a terrible defensive right fielder, but Ichiro was just elite there. But it's home runs. I mean, home runs and RBIs are what make you, the greatest of all time.
Especially a corner outfielder
in that category of greatest of all time. So you have to be able to do that, and that was not Ichiro's game. So I'm going Judge.
And I it says here he had a 311 career batting average. I thought that would have been higher.
Hmm.
But yeah, to me it came down to Judge or Mookie, and I think Mookie moving to shortstop kind of hurt his right field status for all of this. And when you're just dealing with an absolute alien and Aaron Judge, it's kind of hard to leapfrog that. Some other notables here. Um, I'm not ready to put Juan Soto on, even in that top three. Or Acuna. I think both of them could end up higher on this list.
The thing that hurts me with Soto, and I love Soto, and I mean, I've said for a long time that Soto's one of my favorite players in the league. The problem when it comes to all century team that I kind of steer away, and why I don't like
Ooh.
him, and that is A, just doesn't have enough time yet. We haven't seen it.
No.
We haven't seen it for long enough, and B, in that short amount of time, has played for too many different teams.
Yeah. Which, I mean, that's partially not his fault.
No, it's
You
not.
know.
But then again, maybe it kind of is. Maybe that's kind of. I think he maybe potentially wears out his welcome a little bit sooner than others do, and I think that that's a reason why. Um, that's the reason why the Nationals didn't want him. I mean, why would the Nationals not want him? Why would they not want to build
They,
around
they
that?
tried for
And
$345 million.
yeah,
dollars.
yeah, and but I mean, if there's only so many Sotos in the world,
Yeah.
and for them to not want to, I understand that they're a small market. They don't want to go big time with it. They want to keep it low, but like he's the reason why you're going to be putting asses in the stands, and he's going to be the reason why you're going to make a shit ton of money. And for them to not, they've had to have seen something where maybe he's just not that guy.
Yeah.
And then he goes to the Padres, and the Padres he moves on from them to the Yankees, and the Yankees obviously wanted him back. But I don't think it was. I mean, like look what they're doing right now this season. I mean, they're doing just fine without him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I don't know. I love the guy. I love watching him play. I love everything about his game. But I just think he might be one of those guys that maybe potentially wears out his welcome a little sooner than others.
Could be. Time TBD, 2Ks,
Hmm.
2 TBD. Center field, slam dunk.
Yeah,
Mike Trout.
jeez. Best player I've ever watched in my lifetime consistently. I mean, I obviously when we go to the left field, I'm gonna say my left fielder is the best hitter I've ever seen,
Mm.
but best all around player,
Yeah.
Mike Trout.
Yep, hands down. Just some other ones to kind of tickle your fancy with. Carlos Beltran. Um, Very sneaky career. Torrey Hunter. And some current ones. J Rod, which he better get his head out of his ass if he wants to keep on this list. Um, and yeah, Grady Sizemore. Grady's ladies over there in Cleveland.
I did like watching Grady for a while there, but
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, nobody even close to Trout.
No. And left field, no one even close. Barry Bonds.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, he's the best hitter I've ever seen.
Yep.
Best hitter I've ever seen.
And I ironically enough, I've seen videos where they've synced up Bonds and Otani
Mm.
just with their mechanics and their swings almost are identical.
Yeah.
Almost identical. Some other ones to consider, even though, like I said, you can't make an argument that any one of these guys is better than Barry Bonds. Manny Ramirez
Mm.
was dominant.
Manny was fucking good. I mean,
Yeah.
looks Manny Ramirez deserves some respect, but unfortunately, just being a left fielder and Barry Bonds being in that category, like
Yeah.
it's just it's an unwinnable. I don't know if we'll ever see a
No.
left fielder that does what Bonds did. So,
Nope.
but Manny was as far as getting back to that what I have been saying all night long, the stretch.
Mhm.
What Manny did there in Boston and some in those years for about a 7-8 year stretch were some pretty incredible seasons.
Yep. And unfortunately, in making this list, you do not get extra points for cutting off a throw from center field. Which, if that were the case, this dude Manny would be in the Hall of Fame. Yeah, some of these other ones. I mean, there just really isn't a standout. I mean, aside from those two, number 3 is Ryan Braun. I mean, yeah, I guess.
I mean, he was really really good there for a time.
Yeah.
Again, another one that with the PEDs.
Yep. The whole sample mishandling controversy. Christian Yelich for a stretch there. You're right when we're talking about stretches. However, we're talking about 2 seasons. He's kind of had a little resurgence this year, which is good to see. Speaking of that, did you hear the bet
Oh yeah,
that
yeah. No,
with
this has been going on for a few years.
yeah,
They do not want him in the home run derby.
no,
I'm talking about Big Cat and PFT.
yeah,
Yeah, it'd be
yeah,
bad. Uh, be bad for them. Be bad for them. So they're really hoping that he.
yeah. First of all, if this does happen, you know they're going to live stream it, and I will not be watching. Will not be watching. All right, 2K. Let's move to DH again. This one, I was a little conflicted. A little conflicted because you know my guy, you know Big Poppy,
Mm,
but even with the postseason heroics, even with the just the status and symbol and just everything that he stood for in Boston. Last time I checked, he never had 50 stolen bases in a season.
yeah.
Probably did not hit almost 60 home runs in a season. And you might be saying, well, Turbo, Shohei's only done it once. Well, he's doing it again. Maybe not so much the stolen base numbers, but the dude is he's won the Edgar Martinez Outstanding Defensive Hitter Award, which that we need to shorten that up. 4 consecutive times from 21 to 24. So this isn't something he's just doing for
He's gonna
one
be
season.
He's gonna be at 300 home runs before he even gets to his 10th season.
Yeah.
He's in his 8th season right now and has 248 home runs.
Yeah.
It's incredible. I mean, it is incredible. And it's like you watch the season last year and you're like, he can't continue to do this, can he? And it's then you're watching him so far this year. Got off to a really slow start. Slow start for his standards.
I'd say for his
like,
standards,
like
yes.
really slow start as far as the home runs go. And then it's like you don't look at his numbers for 2 weeks and you go back in there and you're like, oh shit, Shohei's hit 8 home runs in 2 weeks.
Here he
like,
is. Yep.
Yep, there he is. And like David Ortiz, what he did in Boston, the World Series, the MVPs, the just the heroics, the big home runs that he hit in such big moments. It's hard to pass that up. But when you're talking about this category here, where you have to kind of look at what they're going to do in the future,
Yep.
and Shohei, and 10 years from now, I think we're going to be the conversation of Shohei is going to be more so of, is he the greatest hitter that we've ever seen in Major League Baseball?
Is he going to overtake Bond?
Yes.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
And that's where, and it's that's why I go with Shohei on this. The base running is just a plus. I mean, and the pitching is just a plus. Like everything that this guy can do just keeps adding on to it.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, I just look at what he does at the plate as far as hitting home runs and driving in runs and hitting doubles, and that alone is why I mean, he's the best hitter in baseball right now. I love Aaron Judge. I think Aaron Judge is right there with him, but I think Ohtani's ahead of him.
Could you imagine Ohtani playing in the Bronx?
Yeah, I mean, he probably
games.
would have the same amount of home runs because every home run he hits is about 450.
It's true.
Like you never see him wall scrape anything. Like everything is just
second deck wall scrape.
Yeah, and he's left-handed hitter, and he can be doing it to all sides of the field. I mean, he drives the ball to fucking left field just as much as he drives the ball, pulls it to right. And the guy's just incredible. He's got an incredible swing.
What if he hangs up the glove and just decides he's going to be a switch hitter?
I mean,
why not?
Yeah, if I'm the Dodgers and this is my guy, like I'm not even concerned with him pitching. No. I'm not even gonna just hit. Yeah. That's all we need you to do. We'll figure out the
go 50-50 every season.
Especially in today's day and age where we have 5 fucking starting pitchers in all of baseball that are legit. The rest of them are just like they can have their days. Yeah. But they're not like workhorses like we've had for so long in this game.
Yes.
There's about 5 of them. Shohei's not one of those 5 right now because obviously he hasn't pitched in 2 years.
No.
Could he be that? Yeah. I mean, I'm convinced the dude can do anything. He probably could fucking strap him up and play in the NBA and probably play fucking tight end in the NFL.
Yep.
But you're paying him that amount of money. He's proven that he is the best hitter in baseball right now. Just leave him alone right there.
Wouldn't it be cool since he's in LA? And I know this is completely off topic, but he ends up playing for the Clippers and just starts dunking on LeBron. That'd be awesome. Shohei, let's do that.
They bring Lob City back.
Yeah, yeah, that'd be awesome. Some other guys on this list that totally forgot Nelson Cruz existed, which you shouldn't, because you talk about a dude that it seemed like would drop dick once a game. He was that guy. Jim Tomei and the aforementioned Edgar Martinez. Um, I'd have to look to see. I don't know how much of his career he played in the 2000s, but the only other, well, Schwarber and Ozuna are the only other active ones to consider here. All right, 2Ks. Starting pitcher time. I think both of us are going to have 1, 2, and 3, regardless of the order.
Everybody in the fucking world ought to have 1,
If
2,
you
3.
don't, you're a
Like, I
hater.
don't think that there's even even really an argument to be made
No.
for those 3. And we're talking Verlander, Scherzer, Kershaw.
Bingo.
In any order.
Yep.
And I think it comes down to, if you want to try to pick the top one, your ace out of those 2, it comes down to Verlander and Kershaw.
Yes.
No disrespect to Scherzer, but you can go either. I'm gonna take Verlander because I'm a Tiger. I'm a Tigers fan, and that's why I'm gonna take Verlander.
Has more strikeouts.
Somebody can tell me right now that they're gonna take Kershaw, and I'm not gonna argue with you
Nope.
for a second.
Nope. Verlander has more career strikeouts. Kershaw has lower career ERA. Let's see. Both 3-time Cy Young Award winners. Both have an MVP. With Scherzer, you're looking at a 3-time Cy Young. Does not have as many strikeouts as Verlander, but has more than Kershaw. Where Kershaw right now is, I think that's the only reason he's still playing, is to reach that 300 or 3,000 strikeout level, which I think he's less than 20 away. And I think once he hits that, I mean, there literally is no more boxes to check.
Right.
You've done it, kid. Multiple ERA titles, World Series rings. Verlander's the same way. Scherzer's getting paid a whole lot of money this year, so he's probably the best businessman out of these 3, because I think he's getting paid from 4 different teams, including the Blue Jays, to not even pitch. So good on you. Good on you. Where are you going with number 4 here, 2Ks?
This one's tough, because I mean, there's some legitimate arguments to be made for a few guys here. I'm going Roy Halladay.
I will say Scooble made the top 10.
Yeah,
already.
I mean, he's definitely not on my list here in the top 5.
No.
But like a guy like Scooble, and you're talking about kind of like what Shohei, where there's a lot of baseball to be played. There's a lot of baseball to be played for a guy like Scooble, but he's not in this. I'm going Roy Halladay.
Me too.
He was just a workhorse. I think there's a lot of his years, especially in Toronto, that kind of get forgotten about.
Yeah.
They don't pay much. They weren't really they weren't the same ball team that he was on when he was with the Phillies. Like, the Phillies were playing for World Series, playing in the playoffs all the time, and he was just that dominant workhorse of an ace.
2 Cy Youngs.
2 Cy Youngs, over 200 wins, career ERA of 3.38.
It was a perfect game and a no-hitter.
Perfect game and a no-hitter, yes. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then for being in the postseason, like, that just is another.
It's the only no-hitter in postseason history. However, there was one perfect game, which is what, Tom Seaver or some shit.
I got to go Halladay on this one. He just was that. When you talk about the other 3, like, just workhorse aces that they were, innings eaters, gonna just go out and take the ball and throw 7 innings on a nightly. He's that guy too. He was gonna do that also, and he was gonna throw a shit ton of strikeouts while doing it, and just completely fucking dominated offenses.
Can't argue. He's my number 4. My number 5. I'm for all the people saying I'm Yankee hater, I'm giving CC my number 5.
Yeah, it's hard to the wins there with him. It's hard to argue that. Obviously, this one I really wanted to go with the unit, but the unit's best seasons were in the 90s.
Yeah.
Still was doing his thing in the early 2000s, but I think he only played through like year 2020 or 2004. Might have been his last season in 2005. So there just wasn't a lot to really go off of in that. because there's an argument to be made that the unit is better than everybody that we just mentioned.
thousand
Like, I
percent.
mean, over 300 wins. We're not going to see any of those guys get to that. Just the dominant pitcher that he was. That argument can be made, but I just don't consider him in this time. So I'm going Greinke as 5, and the reason I'm going with Greinke is, played a lot of years on not very good teams,
Mm-hmm.
but he was always a hard win. I mean, those Royals teams were fucking terrible, but it was always hard to beat him when
Yeah.
he was on the bump. He did exactly what an ace does, and that's take the ball and go deep into games, to basically give your bullpen the night off when he was throwing. Um, and then when you look at his numbers, his career numbers, I mean,
He was on
it's
that World Series
honestly,
team, right?
yeah,
All right.
honestly, it's shocking to me when I started looking at his numbers and seeing that he had 225 wins and had a career WAR of 77, which I thought was that's a
Yeah.
higher WAR than Holiday
Mm-hmm.
has. I think it might even be it's a higher WAR than Scherzer also. So that was really shocking to me when I looked at the numbers. 6-time Gold Glove as a pitcher also. I think that's
Yeah.
field your position. He wasn't the style pitcher of everybody else we named.
No.
He could miss bats and he could strike guys out, but he wasn't doing it like to the caliber that they were.
No.
And so he had to field his position, play a little bit differently. Did win a Cy Young, 6-time All-Star. Yeah, I mean, I don't think you can go wrong with either one. CC and then the wins and what he just the workhorse that he was. I mean, I don't think you're wrong with that one, and I don't think you can go wrong with Greinke in this either.
It just comes. I
And Greinke could do it with the fucking stick too.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, CC's the big lefty, dude. You never know. You never know. Some other guys to consider. Pedro, but again, kind of like the same argument you made about Randy Johnson. You could say about him. Now there's the last little bit here are current guys, DeGrom, Chris Sale, and like I said, Scooble. But one that I probably should have done a little bit more deep diving on is Felix Hernandez.
Mm-hmm.
I think just him, the whole King Felix thing, I believe was in the 2000s. Did win a Cy Young, but that Mariners team was just terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that hurts him here because you don't see the World Series appearances, the postseason appearances, whereas with all the guys I just listed or we talked about, had success in the postseason.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you for years and years and years, it was the biggest knock on Clayton Kershaw is that he stunk in the postseason. You could kind of say the same thing for JV for a long stretch there. Great in the regular season, stunk in the postseason.
Mm-hmm.
And thankfully, both of them cleared that up.
Mm-hmm.
And, before Father Time kind of is catching up or has caught up with all, those two and with Scherzer. So, yeah, this is if you look at this list, this is the turning point
Mm-hmm.
in Major League Baseball starting pitching. The top four guys in 5 or both of our lists, these guys were, well over, they were mad if they didn't get through 7.
Mm-hmm.
They were definite bullpen days off. These guys were, taking the ball every 5th day, looking to go 9. They're not looking to go 5. They're not looking to max out at 100 pitches. I mean, how many times did JV at pitch 113 pump it up there at 101, 102, 103?
Mm-hmm.
And, there are a couple guys like that. And you mentioned Scooble, where he's earned that.
Yeah.
And just his sheer body type. Garrett Crochet wants that same treatment. Well, this is your first full season, dude.
Right.
You will eventually get there. But for right now, keep doing your thing, big guy. Keep doing your thing. And those guys, and I think you could add Skeens in there as well.
Mm-hmm.
Probably the only right-hander, but as far as longevity in a starting pitcher, that's not what we see now.
Right.
And why would you run the metrics say when you face the lineup for the 3rd time, your ERA goes from 2.5 to 4.2.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, let's get some flamethrowers out of the bullpen that are pretty much just disposable nowadays, and let's just Let's just go at it that way.
Mhm.
That's kind of, when you're pitching by the numbers, 2Ks,
Yep.
that's what the numbers tell you.
Yep.
And you don't see a lot of managers, even, because we're the Jim Lelands of the world, the Bobby Coxes of the world. Those guys, it was by gut, it was
Yeah.
by feel,
Yep.
it was by, by sight. How is this guy, what does this stuff look like? Not, all right, well, he's throwing 94 pitches. We better get him out of here because this guy last at bat took
Mhm.
his slider and just, put it into right center for a double. We need to avoid that. We
Mhm.
need to avoid that. And I think, yes, all, the top three here in particular throw gas.
Mhm.
Well, Kershaw later in his career wasn't really known for gas, but when he came up, he was. He was mid to high
Mhm.
90s. But we saw with back injuries and everything else, he had to reinvent himself earlier, probably than what he wanted to. But I think most of the time, and I've watched a lot of stuff on this, where there's a lot of pitching coaches in particular that they're like, we could teach you how to throw hard,
Mhm.
but no one's teaching control
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
So that's the scary part.
Yeah.
That's the
And
scary part.
it's like, and we talked about it when we had Cody here, head coach for the Growlers, and just all the numbers that these coaches, managers have available to
Mm-hmm.
them. I mean, it's numbers that back when Verlander, Kershaw, or Scherzer were coming up doing their thing, like you said, with pitching coaches and managers back in the future, or not in the future, but in the past. They didn't have those numbers available to
Mm-mm.
them. They were playing everything off a feel, or they already had it set in stone. You knew who was going to be your seventh inning guy, you knew who was going to be your setup guy, and you knew who was going to close.
Mm-hmm.
And now everything is off of analytics. Everything's off of paperwork that they have, or a tablet that they have down in their dugout that they're looking at. That they know the numbers, they know the splits, they know exactly
Mm-hmm.
what they're doing, and that might mean that your closer is throwing in the fucking seventh inning of a game because that might be the bigger inning because you're facing the heart of the meat of this lineup here
Yep.
in the seventh inning. So we're gonna throw our best. I'm gonna take to put our best option on the field and pitch against the meat of your lineup, and then we'll piece together the rest of it. And it's a whole different ball game now, and I think that's why as we've watched these guys. I mean, watching Verlander, Kershaw, all of them when they first were coming through, the way that they were pitching, it was like, oh, these guys are going to win. Get 300 wins easy.
Easy.
They're easy. Well, the game changed in the
Mm-hmm.
middle of their careers, and
Yep.
everything changed to where they're not going to throw that much, and they're
Mm-hmm.
not going to get thrown into situations where they're pitching late into ball games into the sixth, seventh, eighth inning. They're taking a lot of their starts are going as it turns into a bullpen game, and they get a lot of no decisions out of all those. So
Yep.
that's where I think the numbers are a little bit skewed. I still think that those guys, when you talk about them as a whole, yeah, they don't have the wins to put up against a lot of these other pitchers in baseball and baseball history, especially. But if you just go off of stuff,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think they got better stuff than a lot of pitchers that we watched, going back into the late 90s,
Yep. I
and
agree.
even going into early 2000s.
I agree. And there's been, baseball writers and a whole slew of media saying that, the win stat is completely ridiculous for starting pitchers.
Well, I mean, we're watching it firsthand with Paul Skeens right now.
Yeah.
Like, what more can the guy do? And he's not getting any wins.
Yep.
Like, so it's
He
I
throws a
obvi-
complete game and gets a
gets a
loss.
loss. Yeah, you know, throws 7 innings of one-run ball today and gets a no decision in it.
Yep.
Like, it's just it's frustrating, but that's the game that we're playing today.
Yep.
And and something that what we watched in the 90s, and we watched in there was only a handful of guys in all of baseball in the 90s and in the early 2000s that were throwing that could dial it up to triple digits. Now every single team in baseball has a guy coming out of their bullpen that can do
It's a
that.
bullpen full of them.
Yeah. Yep.
And
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 if they're not
and
throwing
some
triple digits,
starters.
they're fucking throwing 98, 99 and
Yeah.
have a devastating, whether it's a breaking ball, a slider, curveball, whatever it is, or a fucking elite changeup, which I
Mm-hmm.
still think is
Best
arguably the
pitch in
best pitch
baseball.
in baseball.
Yep.
It's the stuff that pitchers have today, um, is better than what we've ever seen. I just think that you're not going to see the wins totals and everything rack up for a lot of these guys because there's so many options in the bullpen that
Yep.
we can go into the bullpen and not allow this team to see this guy three times through the lineup, and we can go to we got 2 or 3 guys in the bullpen that can take care of business. And on top of that, we're keeping this guy healthy because we're not throwing him as
Yeah.
much. We've watched it. I've watched it a ton. Skubal is in my opinion the best pitcher in baseball right now. There are nights where I think, and I know watching it that Skubal's pissed. He wants to stay in the game. He wants to
Yep.
keep throwing because that's the kind of guy that he is. And Hinch is like, oh, I'm not going to let these guys,
Nope.
see you one more time. We're coming up on the top of the order. This could be the 4th time that they're seeing you today. Not going to let them ruin this outing. I got Will Vest in the bullpen. I
Mm-hmm.
got Conley in the bullpen. Like we're gonna go. I'm gonna do, and what pisses Skubal off.
Oh yeah.
But it's what is the best. Giving them it's the best option for them to win the game, and it's the best option for Skubal in the long haul.
Yeah, and Scoobs,
Hmm.
we need you in October, kid.
Yes, that's what
We
I'm
need you
saying.
in
Like,
November, kid.
I want to win. I want to win this game against the Cubs in June, in early June. I obviously want to win it,
Yeah.
but I'd rather have Skubal
Yeah.
winning games in October over winning a game in June against the Cubs. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, 2Ks. That was awesome.
yeah,
The only thing that would have made it better is if we somehow came up with a draft scenario, because I know how much you love draft.
yeah.
But yeah, 2K crew, let us know who we missed, who's on your list. I'm already welcoming the Yankee haters in the the Yankee lovers and the Derek Jeter lovers. So bring it on. I'm used to it. I've been doing this Yankee hate for over 20 years. So there's nothing you can say that I haven't heard already. And it is what it is.
Hmm?
It is what it is. I'll die on that hill, and I have no problem doing it. Well, 2Ks, is there anything else that we missed?
No, got NBA Finals.
Oh yeah, let's
Going
check the
on.
score on that.
Well, the Pacers are down big at halftime, but
What else? What else is new?
as we know, and as I'd hope the Thunder know now, there really isn't a lead out there that's too big for the Pacers to come back.
Well,
So
now 20.
and like I'm gonna say it again. There's really not a lead that's too big for the Pacers because I've counted them out 3 or 4 times in this postseason, and they have made me look like a fool multiple times. So, as much as I believe the Thunder should go on to win this game easy tonight, I'm not counting the Pacers out.
Nope. If you're for all of those that were complaining that this is going to be the lamest matchup in NBA history and the league itself is going to be losing money because of this matchup, I think what the Pacers did game 1, no one's turning their TVs. No one's turning their TVs. And my pick was Pacers in 7 last week. And I also was beating the shit out of the NBA saying you have a game on Thursday and the next one's not until fucking Sunday.
Yeah.
When no one travels.
Yeah.
This is ridiculous.
Yeah. I agree. Because again, this shit's been going on for it
6
seems like postseason basketball started on like opening day of Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
It's still going.
And
it's
not a champion's been crowned.
No.
All right. Well, 2K crew will get you out of here on that. Everyone have a great week. We will see you next week. And as always, Jim Rome, we're coming for you.